Hi, I'm Valerie Espinoza, your New Mexico Public Regulation Commissioner, and I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of our program. Today we have a very special guest who happens to be a state senator, who happens to be right in the heart of a legislative session, and I want to thank him for taking the time to be here with us today. And I'm sorry it's taken so long to finally sit here and get this done, and I'm so grateful that you're here because I know you're busy.
No, I appreciate you having me here. And the legislatures we're starting to roll now, and got another week and a half, and we should have some good stuff for New Mexico.
Super. Well, he is here today because he happens to be a candidate for the New Mexico Land Office. Now, if anybody's going to know much about that office, it's going to be the gentleman sitting to my left here because he has been a state senator for the last 10 years, and you are from Grants?
Gallup,
Gallup,
New Mexico.
I was close.
Yep.
I was close. So tell us about yourself, and what do people need to know about you, other than you work hard at the Merry Roundhouse at the Capitol. Tell us about all the things. Before we get into the race for land commissioner, what are you doing now? What are you guys doing across the street here?
Well, we're doing a lot. I have a public school safety bill, which needs to happen in this legislative session.
Beautiful.
We want our kids to leave our schools, and we don't want to know that there's some level of security when they get there. Chaco and fracking. The Navajo Nation president was in there testifying on Chaco and fracking and what they need.
Most people are not for fracking. Is that kind of a difficult situation?
It's a difficult situation in certain areas, but in those culturally protected areas, it's even more of a problem. There's a lot of legislation out there, and we'll see where we end up in the end of the session.
Interesting. Boy, I don't know how you do it. You've got a full plate and you've got 30 days to get it done, right?
That's right, yeah.
And that includes the budget. What did I see about something that they were trying to push through a bill to give the governor and elected officials raises? Is that true? I think I read that in the paper today.
Yeah, that bill comes through, but it comes through every 4 years. So I've been there 10. So at the end of every 4 years, there's always an LFC bill that increases pay for the executives, elected executives.
And especially you all, you don't, it's sort of a thankless job on one hand, and you don't make much money, right?
I don't make any money off it. The hotel room's expensive, food's expensive in Santa Fe, and so
it's a
it
tough
covers
job.
my costs.
Yeah. So. Well, all right. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty of why you would like to be the land commissioner in the state.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been in the legislature for 10 years. And so we seen the article in the paper yesterday about how New Mexico hasn't moved. And we need to change. And I use this example all the time. We used 1800s technology to build the rail runner to move people in the 20th century. And we have to change in New Mexico. I don't care what it is. My kids are graduating, one's still in high school. They're not coming back. They got to have something to come back to. And you have to make that change in New Mexico, and people haven't wanted to. And it's just, it's time to put your foot down. But I think the Land Commissioner's Office is one of the most important offices in the state of New Mexico, if not the most. You protect public lands, 13 million acres, and 9 million acres of subsurface. And you have to protect that from New Mexico. But where can you make the most change? I've been in the legislature for 10 years. We all talk about wind and solar and how we need to do that, but it's time to do it. And it's time to generate that new economy in New Mexico so we end our dependence on oil and gas.
Very interesting. So as land commissioner, what system will you put in place in order to gather input and feedback from the people of New Mexico, especially in rural areas and where you have the biggest parcels?
Well, that's the problem. It's for us rural guys to travel to somewhere, to Albuquerque, to Santa Fe, and take a complete day off to do that, to make comments. I think that you put in commissions that actually have teeth and can make strong recommendations that work, not just an advisory committee, because I just want to hear this person talk. You need to get all the people to put their input and then make the best decision you can based on their input together.
Interesting. And just to tell the public what exactly the land commissioner does, then we'll get into some more of the,
So we manage, they manage 13 million acres of subsurface and 9 million acres of surface rights. So from grazing to surface is anything above the ground. So grass, wind, solar, billboards, there's so much above the subsurface. And then below the surface is all the oil and mineral rights
interesting.
on state lands.
Interesting. So what would you do to ensure that New Mexico's public schools have stable sources of funding? Because isn't a portion of that money to go to the schools?
It's all dedicated, it's all to education. There's a few increments for hospitals and mental health. But the way you generate revenue is you have to make a different revenue source. And so we know oil and gas is high because we've ridden this roller coaster ride with education, and I'm flat out tired of that. And so you have to create that new economy in New Mexico. If you take wind and solar, and we capture 0.4% of what we could in New Mexico. We are ranked 4th in the nation, and 0.4% is barely being captured. If we captured it all, and then put in solar, and now with the storage systems in place, we could be the leader in the world for this. And it creates that new revenue stream with energy that's not a roller coaster, because it's constant. Everybody turns the light switch on every day, right?
And nobody realizes how, what it takes.
Everybody's food's in the fridge. That is a constant revenue stream that's only going to grow.
People don't realize what it takes to keep the lights on.
Yes.
And then they hear of an outage.
I mean, I have outages at my house, and I may pay the highest rates in the state because the way our structure under a co-op, but then they sell to my city power, so I pay double the rates because I live outside the city limit. So I pay almost 26 cents a kilowatt, which is pretty high compared to.
So are you a conservative? You turn the lights off and you tell your kids shut the light off behind you?
I'm a conservative anyway, so I have timers but that's the revenue stream that we need to target. A steady, stable revenue stream. Most important thing we can do. We can't ride that roller coaster ride because you're there, you cut, you add, and colleges and schools have no stability. Oh, I can hire these people this year. Oh, I don't have the money next year. Now I got to cut.
Well, you know how that works. There's no money.
Yeah, it's horrible. And in order for me to do better for the state, then you have to have someone that has leadership and that's willing to say, you know what, these are the right things to do, but we better figure it out because we're still going to be 50th if we don't do something. And I mean, my kids are kind of growing up, but there's other kids. There's a ton of them in the Capitol today. What about them, right?
Do you still have kids doing the, the paging and stuff?
Yes.
How does that is awesome. So
Yeah.
you seem to have gravitation towards, the happiness of kids and making sure they're, safe.
I'm a kid at heart.
Yeah, we all are, aren't we? That is
Yeah.
awesome.
So, I mean, that's the problem is, at the end of the day, there's a poem that says the man in the mirror, right? And every day you look the guy in the mirror and say, are you going to make things better? You're the one you have to answer to. I have it in my wallet, I have it in my truck, and it's just, I mean, you have to want to think that way when you come to the legislature.
I like that. Especially because it seems to be so partisan at this time. It's so, it's all you read. And
Yeah, I mean, that's the legislature.
Mm-hmm. That's the nature of the beast, is that right?
That's DC, right?
Yes.
It's not about, let's fix a problem, let's fight.
So I know a minute ago you were talking about fracking and the bills, and I know there was a case in Mora where they were against fracking, and even in the Catskills, my sister I went to visit her up there, and there's signs, no fracking. So what would you do to prevent fracking in the culturally sensitive vicinity of Chaco Canyon?
Well, I represent the Navajo Nation, and so on Friday we had the Navajo Nation president there, and we wanted to extend the boundaries of the Chaco fracking. He came in and says, let's leave it at a 10-mile radius, but let's make it a national monument, which completely changes the game. So when you change it from a national park to national monument, then you even get more protection, which is even better, instead of just talking about stuff. Now, we won't be able to do the national monument at the state level, but at the federal level, we can make a greater push.
Interesting.
And so there's certain places that need to be protected, and there's certain boundaries that everybody should have, right? Like, I don't want a gas well in my backyard. That's fine. That's determination. People have a right to say and choose what happens in their area. And is it fair to them? No, I don't think it's fair to them. But I think you have to create that fairness.
So I have a dumb question. Where's Chaco Canyon located?
Chaco Canyon is just right outside of Crown Point, between Crown Point and Pueblo Pintada. So it's about...
So a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's about 40 miles to the east of Crown Point.
I don't think I've been to your district in a while. I know there's a burger place that's located at a gas station, and it's pretty darn good. Is that somewhere you're familiar with?
Yeah.
Is it Laguna? Is that part of your district?
Laguna is not my district.
What is part of your district?
So I go from the Arizona line to Grants, and then all the way into the edge of the Sandoval County line.
I'll be darned. So you've got even, Rio
Yeah.
Rancho.
The edge of the mountain. I come right to the edge of the Sandoval County line, and then I cut back and I go all the way to the north to almost to Colorado, and then to the south I go to Zuni. So it's a very large district. It's not one like other legislators can ride their bicycle across in a day.
Exactly. Interesting. So you've been at this job for 10 years, and what have you found, in comparison to, running for land commissioner? You probably have met so many great people out there that are supportive of you because they've seen your work.
I mean, when you're a senator, you represent a certain portion, but you still represent the entire state.
I agree.
On certain legislation. But you try to represent your district. For land commissioner, we're a trustee. Our job is to generate money, to be the trustee, to manage the lands, to generate money for education. And so going around the state and talking to people, everybody's a little bit different in New Mexico. And we go to Clovis and it's about farming and ranching and water. You go out to Gallup, and it's completely different. We have people that still haul water in this day and age, and you go up north, and it's about a way of life and tradition and not fracking like they want. And then you go to different areas, it's just a little bit different, and so people have to have a voice and a balance, and you have to understand that.
Is Farmington part of your district?
I have a
little bit.
Small portion of San Juan.
So you know how northern New Mexico is pretty rural. What will you do to ensure that minority voices are heard?
In New Mexico, we didn't have a Hispanic caucus till 3 weeks ago. And so we Hispanic legislators, and we invited everybody, Native Americans, the minority voices. We know that things are different for us in rural New Mexico. We were raised with different traditions. We were raised in different lifestyles. And so being a minority is one of the greatest things that you can do or be, because you struggle through what you have and you make it better.
And you have to prove yourself twice as hard, it seems. Sometimes,
and I'll go back to my father. So my dad walked from Gallup to Santa Fe to close to drive up liquor windows, right? A minority walking because Navajo people were dying every single day, and so two minority groups, Navajos and Native Americans, joined, and then it turned into be this big march into Santa Fe. But that's what a leader does, and you got to care about not only your group, but another group.
Interesting. So you've been very connected to the tribes and to representing the Navajo districts. Are they getting ready to redistrict some of the boundaries that you're familiar with or you're aware of?
Redistricting is going to come up in 2020, I believe. So
2020.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, every 10
it
years.
happens every 10 years. Ah, I see.
Yep.
So tell us more about this, of the Land Commission and what you would do to ensure that New Mexicans will have complete access to state lands like water and state parks. And I know, I keep referring to my district, northern New Mexico, but I know that some of the lakes have been closed, especially like in Los Ojos and some of the lakes in where is it, like Conneaulon Lakes, and I'm not sure why, but maybe you know.
Well, they were closed this time of year because there's no ice.
There's no water.
But there's no ice in there. They usually close them because of ice fishing, right? So people don't follow through. So some of that's the latest I've heard, that some of those were closed, even though there's no ice. They closed them. But
Interesting.
the problem in New Mexico is we have no snowpack right now. We have no snowpack in New Mexico, and snowpack makes groundwater, and it makes runoff water, and so we're going to go through the driest season that we've seen in New Mexico
Ever.
because snowpack's not there, and that's a key number one thing. And so water is going to be the number one issue in New Mexico for the next 50 to 100 years.
So let's say, in addition to water, but ensuring that people have access to the public lands. Let's say I want to go up to the, wherever it is, and it's blocked off. How does it work when people want to hunt on some of the lands?
And I've had that done to me, and I've had that done when me and my father were going hunting, or we're going to go get cut wood. So those are state lands, and I've told landowners, said, we're going to have to come to an agreement because somebody's going to die, because they are bloodbaths. They're state lands. I have a right to use them. No, you can't go through my private land.
Exactly.
And we have to fix that. How we fix it is if we got to buy easements, but we're going to fix it. But guaranteeing access to everybody should be the greatest thing, because the worst thing you can do is feeling for a father and a little kid is when they walk up to a house and say, hey, can we go through your place and hunt? And they're like, no, get out of here. We don't even want to deal with you. Absolutely not. And you think your fathers are the greatest things in the world to you, and you're trying to go hunting, and then you meet somebody like that. And that doesn't happen all the time, but I think it has to be fixed, or somebody's going to die, and that's the real
That's
reason.
kind of like the water too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the acequias, the ditches, the situations with the water.
Yeah, and you have to have somebody that stands up and is strong, and it's really knowledgeable in the land office, that knows how to do leases, how to get along with people, how to negotiate, and how to get to the middle so everybody wins.
I like that. And you, as we bring up the land and the water, I know that there's been, seems to have been some sweetheart land deals cut in the past couple of administrations that concern many New Mexicans. And so this kind of activity wouldn't happen under your watch, right?
It's criminal, right? Excuse me. It's criminal, and it should be charged as criminal, because what other people were trying to do in the land office, and I don't think Dunn is trying to do this, but prior people have made sweetheart deals with sheep tags and people allowing to get private sheep tags when we only allow 1 or 2 in New Mexico. Land swaps that are crazy and only benefit themselves.
How does a land swap work? Let's say when you say it only benefits themselves. So somebody has a piece of land and you trade it off?
Somebody has a piece of land and you trade it, but you have to have an appraisal. And the swap should be equal for equal.
Equal value?
Equal value,
or?
yeah, equal value for equal
Right.
value. But then they swap around and make it look, and it benefits. It had benefited other elected officials, and nobody prosecuted it. So the number one thing that I tell people is, I don't need anything in my life, right? I'm happy. I work hard. I make money. There's nothing you can give me or make me do that I need. I need to make sure that other people and their son can go hunting. Your daughter, you and your grandchildren can go fishing in New Mexico, right? That we have enough money in education, so we're not
Puts food on the table too.
we're not throwing out the life jacket in education. That's what has to happen. Somebody has to care about New Mexico, and this is the number one goal. You have to care about New Mexico first before you do anything else. Because if you're running for this office on an agenda, whether it's education or environmental reasons, you're not going to do what's best for the people of New Mexico. Sure, we want to protect those and we want to do that, and we have to do it, but you have to have someone that cares. I'm a 6th generation New Mexican. I've lived here my whole life. I raised my my father raised us here. My family's been here forever. And we have to start caring about us first in the land office.
No kidding.
And that begins with generating money for education.
So what is it like campaigning statewide compared to in a district? It's difficult, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's a lot of fun. My kids rodeo, so we've been almost on every single road in the state of New Mexico.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
so it's like...
So they rodeo. Tell me about your kids. I'm eager to hear.
So I have a 15-year-old son and a 19-year-old son. Zane was a bronc rider.
Oh.
And won the state in the high school bronc riding, and then won the state in amateur bronc riding.
So you have horses?
We have horses. We have, you name it.
When can I go ride your horses?
Anytime you
Or
want.
they might buck me off.
No, our horses don't buck. Zane's horse, he's a bronc rider. My other son's a team roper and a bulldogger, and so we drive all the time. I mean,
What an exciting life.
so yeah, but campaigning across New Mexico, it's great to meet people. I like meeting people and having the conversations. We don't always agree on certain issues, but you meet somebody. Because you never know when you're going to help somebody in New Mexico, because you could pull over on the side of the road and help somebody change their tire, and you'll say, oh, I remember you. But that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to help people.
Exactly. And I never get to have important people like yourself. I mean, everybody's important to me, but of course, like, that serve at the legislature. And so, I really respect your agenda and your presence and how you work, to help the people. And then, so what should people know about you that they don't know, that have never met you? And, what should they know about you?
I'm a business guy. And so in the legislature, I usually try to work business bills, right? Creating jobs, public-private partnerships. They created the biosciences in New Mexico this last year that I think there's $20 million worth of investment. But we take, and I'm going to use his name, is Brian Colon. His son went off to get a biomedical degree. Mm-hmm. He can come right back to New Mexico with what we created, right?
Make some money.
Yeah. Boeing, there's another. These are not bills in my district. Boeing wanted to stay in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so we created a credit for them. And now, look, they're moving into the spaceport. They're expanding in Albuquerque. The LIDA fund. I made the recommendation for the $50 million, so we could play in the grain when Facebook or even a bigger player wanted to come. We had the money to create jobs so our kids stay here. Those are things that I've done. Hunting licenses. I've reduced the number of outfitter licenses, so every New Mexican can get a tag. Almost every New Mexican can get a cow tag. So that's another
Without
one.
having to draw, you mean? Or
Without, yeah. You can draw, but there's always leftover tags. It may not be where you want to be, but there's always opportunity for other tags. And there's a lot of opportunity for youth hunter tags.
and,
which is
and
really
the
important.
handicap as well.
And the handicap, yeah, and veterans.
Wow.
And so, but I think those are, you gotta work for what everybody wants or needs.
So I'm kind of curious. Like I say, I never get the opportunity to interview a legislator, and take
Why not
advantage
that?
of the time here. But so what do you think about, okay, so for example, the PRC, it's had its fair share of red tape. And so I know there's a bill being proposed. There's a gentleman, I think he's in your district too, Rod Montoya.
He's out of Farmington.
Somewhere anyway in that area, and I know they were saying that commissioners should be elected versus appointed. I fought it because I thought people like yourself, everybody needs to have a voice, everybody needs to have access to their elected officials. But now my opinion has changed quite drastically to the other side to say, yeah, I think commissioners need to be appointed by the governor. Maybe you'll be lieutenant governor, maybe you'll be governor someday, maybe you'll be land commissioner. But my point is that I think we really need to have appointed versus elective. And I'm sort of kind of curious what your thoughts are.
Well, they were appointed a long time ago when they were the Corporations Commission, right?
Way before my time, I think.
Yeah, I was probably young. And so, do you want someone that you go home to your district and they see you in the grocery store and say, hey, Valerie, I need to talk to you about this, right? You get an appointed person, and they're
You don't have that.
You don't have that. They can appoint out of a certain area, and people move to say they're out of this area. But what people got to understand about the PRC, it's very complex. you're dealing with a rate case in what's happening in the San Juan Basin. But 4 years ago, they had a chance to fix that. And the legislators from up there did not take that to begin this path. And we get to the short term, and there's a big fight. But you're elected, and you have to have experience, because we did that a couple years ago.
Right.
But people got to understand that understanding a $1 billion rate case
You're exactly right.
is very complex. And so will appointed person study it more, or will an elected person study it more? And if the elected person cares, then they'll actually read what's happening. And the PRC is just not, that's very technical stuff.
The decisions that are made are very complex and impact you and everybody in the long term.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm torn, but you have to understand that the complexity of the PRC and what they do with rate structures and approvals, and you guys deal with everything from records to a lot of stuff that you have to have that broad band of knowledge.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for allowing me to ask you that. I know this program is about you, but I thought I'd take advantage while I had you put you on the spot.
I know
but
I didn't
thank
really
you.
give you an answer,
I
I'm just
appreciate
telling you.
I see
That's
both
candid,
sides
and
of
I
it.
think people need to make that determination on their own. I can tell you what I think people want to hear, or I can tell you what I think should happen.
That's true.
And it's a different opinion. You have a different opinion appointed, and I have a different opinion of elected.
Yeah, I've changed my position because I've had to see it in firsthand and work with some of the issues and people, and so anyhow. But I want to spend the last couple of minutes talking about you and why people should support you, and before we wrap up, I really want to make it about you, and I truly would like to get to know you more, because you seem to be very, sincere and, straightforward and honest, like you did answer the question I had for you, and so I appreciate that.
Listen, I can be nice, or I can tell you the truth.
Yeah,
And I
you
would
can
rather
sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah. I would rather tell you the truth, right?
And that's what people want.
That's what people need to know in this day and time. That
I know you come highly recommended by a lot of people and senators you've worked with in the past that I know, and they think you're just, a champion, and so that's awesome.
But I mean, in this day and age, you can be a politician, but my life's short, and I can't buy any time, and I need to tell people the truth, and that's going to change. But the number one thing is New Mexico has to change their economy, and we have to end up the roller coaster ride for oil independence, and we have to go to wind and solar, and we have to move New Mexico into the 21st century. So that's the most important thing that we can do in the next 5 years. Coal is going away. We have no energy plan to replace that. We don't need 50-cent rates like California, but we have to move that direction and add stability to our educational funding. If we don't do that, we're going to continue down the same path that we always see that we've done, and it's time to fight. Do we want to win this game, or do we want to lose this game? So I'm asking for your support as Land Commissioner. I think it's very important, and number one thing, I care about New Mexico, and I care about you and your families. So I think that's the key reason.
That's very powerful. And speaking of powerful, you serve on a very powerful Senate Finance Commission or committee, so that means you're in charge of the money, is that right? Or how does that work?
They think we're in charge of the money, but...
So we can't be asking for handouts over here. Money, we need money for this, and this.
House Bill 2 came over with over 200 mistakes, and we're trying to correct that right now, and we don't have enough. And we haven't come back from where we were in 2008. And that's why you have to generate a new revenue stream in New Mexico.
And I know you've been trying to help us with the Fire Marshal's office and getting those funds dispersed, because we too have had more calls from different, that money's got to be released, and we can't be holding it. And we can't be giving away $72 million to the general fund either from the fire fund.
No.
So I think we've run out of time,
All right.
and I've enjoyed listening to you, and I hope you're welcome to come back. And as it gets closer to the actual election, you're welcome to come back. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
watching, and if you'd like to appear on this program, please give me a call at 827-4533. Thank you again, Senator Munoz, for being here today.
Thank you.